Hey guys, I'm Hazu, a freelance illustrator from Brazil. Before I get started, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to my channel. If you want to keep up with my art, feel free to follow me on my socials. Hope you enjoy! Today I wanted to share my process of redrawing an older drawing of mine. This is Yanfei from Genshin Impact. She was released in version 1.5 back in April of 2021, and I immediately fell in love with her and had to draw her right away. I love her design and I think she's very fun to draw, so I wanted to revisit this piece. The original was drawn in Photoshop on PC, while this new version was done on Procreate on an iPad Pro. Admittedly, my art style tends to be pretty inconsistent, and I haven't drawn her since that time, so I was a bit unsure of how similar or different this recreation would turn out. Starting in the sketch phase, I switched up the pose to make the composition a bit more dynamic. I liked the original pose, but looking back, it felt a bit stiff, so I tried to loosen it up a bit for a better flow. Most noticeably, I changed the way she's stretching her arms. The change in angle of the head was unintentional, but that's life. Oh, and you're gonna notice a watermark popping up a few times during this video. That's from the screen mirror app I could find to record from the iPad. I hope it's not too bothersome. Moving on to coloring, I used a green undertone in order to complement the pink and orange hues of Yanfei's design. I usually tend to struggle with the coloring stage, and I adjust and experiment with the colors while I work through it. But at first I just focused on placing the local colors. My go-to for adjusting the colors is color curves. I always duplicate the layer first, if I remember to, so that I have at least one unchanged version. And then I just go ham. Here I added some purpley highlights on the layer set to lighten, to complement the slightly peachy tones. I also decided to use a pink multiply layer for shading, in order to honor the spirit of the 2021 version while still keeping it fresh and different. I hope. Now for the rendering. Those of you who are familiar with my art will know I really like this scratchy textural approach. To achieve this, I use a colored pencil brush, which is pretty small. It's tedious, but absolutely worth it. I always like to add a touch of flourish, so I added purple for the shading. It'll be properly blended in later, I promise. I just think it makes it look a bit more interesting, because I'm a big fan of color variation. At the start of the rendering process, I usually put all the layers in a folder, duplicate it, and merge, making it easier for me to modify things, as this allows me to both access the individual layers, while also allowing me to resize things and move them around as needed, like I did with the mouth here, and it looks and feels less messy. I used true black as sparingly as I could, but making sure it wouldn't go unnoticed, as I'm pretty enthusiastic about it. The only instances I employed it were for the darkest parts of the shadow, and just a bit for the line art. I think this results in a much more structural, solid-looking figure. Speaking of line art, a big characteristic of my paintings is that I don't really do it. I've really enjoyed just painting over the sketch because I think it's more practical and I don't stress over making lines perfect. Onto both my favorite and least favorite part of drawing miHoYo characters, the details. Yanfei is no exception to this, and her design is chock full of intricate little details which are lovely to look at, but a pain to draw. So I just keep checking in with the reference and painting over the original blocking that I did. I remember that for the original, however, I had a lot of fun doing the tassel on her hat. I don't know why, I'm very fond of it. Probably my favorite part of her costume, and a big reason why I was so drawn to her all those years ago. For the purple sparkle graphic, I decided to use a grungier brush this time. I can't really say what compelled me to do this, but it definitely distinguishes this redraw from the original. I also duplicated it and used different layer modes to make it look iridescent. At this point in the process, something seemed missing to me, so I played with the idea of adding clouds in the background. Clouds being an important motif in Chinese art, which of course Yanfei's design takes heavy inspiration from. I tried a few different colors and in the end settled on a sort of lemony yellow to make the whole image pop more. Here I had to make your head and hat smaller because anatomy and proportionality are important to me. Here's where the monolayer method comes in clutch. I selected and duplicated the area I wanted to scale down and cover the differences. As a final touch, I included a purple gradient map layer with low opacity. Final thoughts. In the end, I recognize myself and my personal style much more in this recreation. In other words, this recreation is more me. The original piece was pretty experimental for me as I was just about a year into doing digital art. I do think the original looks much more unique and charming in contrast to this new one, so it was hard to not get discouraged while comparing the old piece to the new one while working on it, feeling like I couldn't make a better version of it or that I was sanitizing my style too much. That being said, I ultimately feel happier with this new version as I feel it is a display of the confidence, boldness, and definition which I currently want to convey with my art, and the original lacks that for me, while I treasure it for what it is. I spent a similar amount of time working on both pieces but did so much more with this new recreation, resulting in what I believe is a much more finished looking piece. I hope you enjoyed seeing my process. Do you have any questions about it? Which version do you prefer? What would you like to see me draw next? Drop a comment below and I'll see what I can do. See you next time, and thanks for watching.